Welcome to Night Lesson. Relax and learn along the way.
Intro, Understanding Menopause. Welcome to our night lesson, a space of calm and understanding, where we dedicate ourselves to a topic that profoundly shapes the lives of millions of women, yet often remains hidden in the shadows of societal conversation. Let us dive together into the world of menopause, a natural transition experienced by so many, yet so rarely treated with the openness and respect it deserves. Imagine you are standing on the threshold of a new section in your personal calendar, not the end, but a transformation, a process that is as fascinating as it is complex. Menopause is not a disease, but a biological event that every woman will experience. But why is the knowledge about it so incredibly important? Because knowledge is power. The power to dispel fears, debunk myths, and find support where it is most needed. Let us linger for a moment on the significance of this topic. In a world that often glorifies youth and treats changes in the female body as taboo, reaching this phase of life can cause uncertainty. But we want to offer you a different perspective, one of empowerment through understanding. What awaits you in this episode is a gentle exploration of scientific facts, an illumination of common myths, and a look at the diverse forms of support available today. Together, we will look at the hormonal changes the body goes through, understand the physical and emotional experiences of many women, and show ways this transition can be navigated with serenity and well-being. It is a journey to more self-knowledge and acceptance. Let yourself be carried by this knowledge as you settle into rest, and feel how, with every sentence, a veil of the unknown is lifted. It is a gentle beginning to our shared journey, which in the following chapters will delve even deeper into the nuances and beauty of this special stage of life. Chapter 1. What is menopause? The female body follows an inner natural rhythm that marks the entire lifespan from childhood to old age. A very special and profound part of this rhythm is menopause, also known as the climacteric. This is not a disease and not a sudden event, but a natural and gentle transition. It is a phase of change in which the body slowly readjusts the production of certain hormones, much like an inner compass aligning itself to a new course. It is a farewell to the ability to create new life, but at the same time, it is the beginning of an important new phase of life, in which accumulated life experience and energy are channeled into new paths. A phase that many women describe as a time of new freedom and self-discovery. This transition is as individual as each woman. There is no fixed calendar day on which it begins. For most women, it announces itself sometime between the ages of 45 and 55, but this range is only a rough framework. For some, it begins earlier, for others, later. It is a very personal process, shaped by one's own body, genetics, and individual life path. Let us not view this process as an end, but as a gentle turn on the path of life. Biological fertility comes to an end, and a new chapter begins. To truly understand this change, we must look at the invisible architects of our female body, the hormones. Imagine them as the conductors of a large orchestra. Two of the most important musicians in this orchestra are estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen is the dazzling star, the hormone that shapes so much of what we perceive as feminine. It is not only responsible for the monthly cycle and preparing for our possible pregnancy. Estrogen is a true jack of all trades. It ensures the elasticity and moisture of our skin. It strengthens our bones by helping to store calcium, and it even has an influence on our mood and memory by supporting the connections between nerve cells in the brain. It is the energy that often makes us feel so powerful and outward focused in the first half of our cycle. Its partner, progesterone, is the calmer, stabilizing counterpart. Imagine it as a gardener who tends the flower bed after the bloom. After ovulation, it prepares the uterine lining to receive and nourish a fertilized egg. It has a calming, almost meditative effect. It promotes sleep, relaxes the muscles, and helps us to find rest. Estrogen and progesterone dance with each other every month in a finely tuned rhythm, a complex ballet that makes life itself possible. In menopause, the orchestra decides to change its repertoire. The ovaries, which have produced these hormones like faithful factories for a lifetime, begin to slowly wind down their production. They have fulfilled their main task, providing eggs for reproduction, for decades. At birth, a female fetus already carries millions of eggs, a lifetime supply. With each menstruation, with each cycle, this supply has diminished. Now it is nearing its end. This decline in hormone production does not happen overnight. It is more like a dimmer switch slowly turning down the light. At first, production fluctuates, which can lead to irregular cycles. Sometimes the estrogen level is high, then very low again. This up and down is what triggers many of the known symptoms of perimenopause, the phase before actual menopause. When the estrogen level drops, the skin can become drier, bone density can decrease, and the regulation of body temperature can be disrupted, leading to the well-known hot flashes. When the calming progesterone becomes scarcer, sleep disturbances, or an inner restlessness can occur. It is the body adjusting to a new hormonal landscape. Perhaps you are wondering why nature has provided for this process at all. From a purely biological perspective of species preservation, it seems strange at first that women have such a long phase of life after their fertility ends. Here, science offers a fascinating and touching explanation, the grandmother hypothesis. Imagine our ancestors living in small communities. The survival of the group depended crucially on the children surviving and thriving. A young mother who had to simultaneously care for a newborn and find food for herself and her older children faced a formidable challenge. This is where the older women came in. Freed from the task of bearing and raising their own children, they could invest their time and energy in their grandchildren. They could look after the little ones while their daughters went hunting or gathering. They were the bearers of invaluable knowledge. Which plants are edible? Which herbs heal diseases? How do you read the signs of nature? These older, no longer fertile women became the social glue and the walking memory of the community. Their presence increased the survival chances of their grandchildren, thus ensuring the continuation of their own genes. Menopause was therefore not an evolutionary mistake, but possibly a decisive advantage that allowed humanity to pass on knowledge and culture across generations. The grandmother became the first teacher, the healer, the keeper of stories. When we look at menopause from this perspective, the picture changes. It is not a loss, but a profound change of role. It is rather a transition in which the female life force detaches from the primary reproductive role and transforms into wisdom, leadership, and a broader care for the community. Let us let this thought resonate for a moment. The changes in your body are an echo from thousands of years of human history. They are a natural, meaningful process anchored in our deepest being. It is not a deficit that needs to be fixed, but a new phase that comes with its own unique strengths and possibilities. A change as old as humanity itself, which invites us to refocus our energy and to harvest and share the fruits of our life experience. The autumn of life is not the end, but the time of harvest and of deep, golden colors that possess their own mature beauty. In the following chapters, we will gently turn to the various facets of this change, but for the moment, we rest in the knowledge that this is a profoundly natural and meaningful path. Chapter 2. The 3 Phases of Menopause. Imagine the female life cycle as a long, gentle river flowing through different landscapes. It begins as a small, bubbling spring in youth, becomes a wide, powerful stream in the fertile years, and then slowly changes its course as it approaches a new sea. This change, menopause, is not a sudden waterfall, but a gradual, 3-part process, a journey through changing phases of the body. Let us pause for a moment and gently consider these 3 phases, not as medical stages, but as natural landscapes that each woman travels through in her own unique way. The first phase of this journey is perimenopause, which means around menopause. This is the long, colorful beginning of the change in the body. It does not start on a specific day, but often creeps in quietly and unnoticed, sometimes in the late 30s or early 40s, years before the last menstruation. During this time, the ovaries begin to gradually reduce their hormone production. Imagine the hormones estrogen and progesterone as 2 dancers who have danced for decades in a perfect, harmonious rhythm. Now they begin to fall out of step. Sometimes estrogen leads with an unexpected exuberance. Then progesterone withdraws earlier than usual. This hormonal up and down is the reason for the first, often confusing signs. The once so reliable menstrual cycle, which functioned like an internal calendar, begins to develop a mind of its own. A cycle might suddenly last only 25 days, the next might stretch over 35 days. The bleeding can be lighter or heavier. This is not a sign that something is broken, but rather that your body is rehearsing the great transition. It is testing new rhythms, just as an orchestra tunes its instruments before a new piece. Sometimes the first hot flashes already occur in this phase, like short, surprising sunbeams on a cool day. Or the mood fluctuates, the nights become more restless. All these are the first quiet signs as the body adjusts to a new phase. Perimenopause can last a few years or even a whole decade, a long, individual farewell to fertility. The second phase is menopause itself, and here there is often a misunderstanding. Menopause is not a long period, but a single defined moment. It is the point at which exactly 12 months have passed since the very last menstrual bleeding. It is the defining point of the female cycle, a single day that ushers in a new chapter. Before this point is reached, one is in perimenopause. Afterward, postmenopause begins. This moment of certainty occurs on average around the age of 51, but the range is huge. For some women, it happens in their mid-40s. For others, not until their late 50s. It is a silent milestone, not a loud event. There is no bell that rings, no fanfare. It is a date that one only recognizes in retrospect, a moment of clarity after a long time of change. At this point, the ovaries have largely stopped producing estrogen. The dance of the hormones has come to rest. This is followed by the third and longest phase, postmenopause. This is the time after that defining 12th month. This is the new normal, the new landscape that reveals itself. The turbulent hormonal fluctuations of perimenopause are now over. This does not mean that all symptoms disappear abruptly. Hot flashes and sleep disturbances can persist for a few more years, even after the biggest fluctuations are over. But slowly, very slowly, the body finds a new balance, a new, calmer inner center. This phase is not an end, but the beginning of a new long chapter. With the decline of estrogen, other aspects of health gently come to the forefront. It is now a good time to give loving attention to bone density, as estrogen played a protective role for the bones. Likewise, the cardiovascular system deserves conscious care. It is an invitation to turn to one's own body, in a new, caring way, to nourish and strengthen it for the many years that still lie ahead. Postmenopause is the time when energy is no longer expended on the potential creation of new life, but is fully available for one's own development, wisdom, and vitality. But why is this path so unique for every woman? Why does one experience a barely noticeable transition while another struggles with severe symptoms? The answer lies in our wonderful individuality. Genetics plays a large role. Often, menopause proceeds similarly to that of one's own mother or sisters. It gives us a map for our journey, so to speak. But lifestyle is also crucial. Diet, exercise, how we handle stress. All these are the shoes in which we walk this path. Good general health can smooth the path, while chronic illnesses can make it steeper. The age at which menopause occurs also has an influence. An early menopause, before the age of 40, has different long-term implications than one that occurs in the late 50s. There is no one right way, only your own. Every experience is valid. Every journey is unique. And so the river of life flows on, through the phase of perimenopause, past the silent milestone of menopause, and into the wide, calm landscape of postmenopause, ready for what comes next. Chapter 3. Understanding Physical Symptoms. Imagine your body for a moment as a finely tuned orchestra. For decades, the instruments have played together in a familiar harmony, conducted by a well-rehearsed rhythm of hormones. Now, in this new phase of life, the score is being gently rewritten. Some instruments recede into the background, others change their melody. This retuning, this new composition, is what you feel as physical symptoms. It is not a sign of a mistake, but a process of adaptation, a natural, though sometimes challenging, transformation. Tonight, let us listen together and in all calmness to some of these physical changes, understand them, and replace the fear of the unknown with knowledge. Perhaps the most well-known and often first noticed symptom is hot flashes and the accompanying night sweats. Like a sudden, unexpected wave, an intense warmth spreads from your chest up into your neck and face. Your skin may redden, your heartbeat quickens, and beads of sweat form on your forehead. Just as quickly as it came, the wave recedes, possibly leaving you shivering and in damp clothing. In fact, not all women experience only heat. A relatively new finding shows that some women, instead or in addition, may feel intense chills or sudden shivers, another extreme of faulty thermostat regulation. Why does this happen? At the center of this phenomenon is your body's own thermostat, the hypothalamus in the brain. The declining estrogen makes this internal regulator more sensitive. It reacts to the slightest temperature fluctuations and mistakenly believes the body is overheated. It then triggers a large-scale cooling action. The blood vessels near the skin dilate abruptly to release heat. That is the hot flash. The sweat serves as additional cooling. So your body is not trying to annoy you. It is trying with all its might to regulate its temperature. It's just that its thermostat is being recalibrated. It is learning to cope with a new internal weather situation. For some women, these flashes are just a fleeting feeling of warmth. For others, they can greatly disrupt daily life, and especially the night. They can last for a few months or extend over several years. Every experience is unique, just as you are unique. These nightly heat waves lead us directly to the next topic, sleep disturbances. It is often assumed that you only wake up from night sweats because you are soaked in sweat, or freezing. That is an important part of the story, but not the whole truth. The hormonal shift has a more direct impact on our sleep architecture than we long thought. Estrogen plays a role in the processing of serotonin and other neurotransmitters that control the sleep-wake cycle. It also influences the production of melatonin, the sleep hormone. When estrogen levels drop, melatonin levels can also be disrupted, making it harder to fall asleep and impairing the quality of deep sleep. You may wake up more often, not just because of the heat, but because your sleep is simply lighter and more fragmented. A vicious cycle is created. Restless nights lead to tiredness and exhaustion during the day. This exhaustion, in turn, can worsen other symptoms like mood swings, concentration problems, and even the perception of pain. Instead of fighting against being awake, try to accept it with gentleness. Perhaps it is an opportunity to take a deep breath, drink a glass of water, and send your body the message, I understand. You are working hard. We'll get through this together. While these internal processes are taking place, you may also notice external changes. Your weight might redistribute, especially around your midsection. This is because your metabolism slows down as estrogen levels decrease. Your body needs less energy, and muscle mass tends to be lost more easily, while fat tissue is more easily gained. This is not a personal failure, but a biological adjustment. Your skin, your largest organ, is also changing. Estrogen is crucial for the production of collagen, the protein that gives our skin its firmness and elasticity. Less estrogen means less collagen, which causes the skin to become drier, thinner, and less plump. You might notice finer lines or a changed texture. At the same time, your hair can also become drier and thinner. These changes invite us to adapt our beauty and care rituals, not to fight against time, but to nourish and honor our body in its new form. And then there are the joints. You might feel a new stiffness in the morning or pain in your knees, fingers, or shoulders. Here, too, estrogen plays a role, as it has an anti-inflammatory effect. When its protection diminishes, underlying inflammatory processes in the joints can become more noticeable. An area that is often spoken of only in whispers, but is of immense importance for well-being, is urogenital symptoms. The tissue of the vagina and urinary tract is very rich in estrogen receptors. As the hormone decreases, the mucous membrane becomes thinner, drier, and less elastic. This can lead to vaginal dryness, which can make intercourse painful. In fact, this affects up to half of all women after menopause, which shows how normal this symptom is. It is a common symptom, and it is important to know that there are effective and gentle treatment options. At the same time, the changed anatomy in the pelvic area, along with a weakening of the pelvic floor muscles, can lead to more frequent urination or even stress incontinence, the involuntary loss of urine when sneezing, laughing, or lifting. It is estimated that about 1 in 3 women experience some form of involuntary urine loss during menopause, so you are far from alone. Let's pause for a moment and acknowledge how brave it is to talk about these things. They are not embarrassing problems, but medical symptoms that deserve attention and care, just like a sore knee or dry skin. Your body deserves to be understood and supported in all its functions. Chapter 4: Emotional and Mental Changes. Let us now turn our gaze from the visible signs of change inward to a world that often remains invisible but is no less real. We dive into the subtle but profound emotional and mental changes that accompany this phase of life. Imagine your inner universe, your mind and soul, recalibrating, finding a new balance in a changing landscape. This is a journey that requires gentleness and understanding, especially from yourself. The mood swings you may be experiencing are not your imagination and not a sign of weakness. They are the direct result of a complex biochemical symphony being recomposed in your body. Hormones like estrogen are not just responsible for the cycle. They are also closely intertwined with the neurotransmitters in your brain. Imagine estrogen as a conductor, leading the orchestra of your brain chemistry. When the levels of this conductor fluctuate, the interplay of serotonin, the feel-good messenger, and dopamine, responsible for motivation and pleasure, sometimes gets out of sync. One day you may feel full of energy and optimism. The world seems open to you. The next day, a cloud of melancholy may settle over you for no apparent reason. It can feel like an emotional roller coaster on which you are just a passenger. In these moments, it is incredibly important to treat yourself with kindness. Gently remind yourself, it's not you who has become unpredictable. It is the hormones seeking a new, stable level. It is a temporary state, a transition, not a final judgment on your character. In this emotional new territory, your threshold for irritability may also lower. Things you used to dismiss with a smile, a spilled glass of water, a missed call, a thoughtless remark, can suddenly trigger a wave of anger or rage that surprises even you. This intense reaction often stems from a deep frustration. Your body may feel foreign, the hot flashes rob you of sleep, and fatigue is a constant companion. It is as if you are already carrying invisible, heavy luggage. Any small, additional burden can make the barrel overflow. Added to this is the societal pressure to always function, to always be patient and understanding. The pressure to be the perfect woman, mother, partner, or colleague does not let up just because your body is running a marathon. This discrepancy between inner experience and outer expectation can create a deep sense of injustice and anger. Let us pause for a moment and acknowledge that this anger can be a valve, a signal that your resources are depleted and you need more space and forbearance for yourself. Sometimes the shadows can lengthen and the mood swings can turn into something deeper. Anxiety and depression are unfortunately not uncommon guests during this phase of life. It is crucial to recognize the difference. Sadness or worry are normal human emotions. A clinical depression, however, is a persistent state in which the joy of life is lost, energy is lacking, and a feeling of hopelessness prevails. Anxieties can manifest as a constant carousel of worries, a racing heart, or a sense of impending danger, even in safe situations. If you notice that these states are dominating your daily life, that you are withdrawing socially, or that the things that once brought you joy now leave you indifferent, then it is not a sign of weakness, but an act of strength and self-care to seek professional help. A conversation with a doctor or therapist can bring light into the darkness and give you tools to navigate this difficult passage. In addition to the emotional waves, there are also cognitive changes that unsettle many women. You may be familiar with the feeling of brain fog. You walk into a room and have forgotten what you wanted there. You lose your train of thought mid-sentence. Names and dates that you used to recall effortlessly are suddenly erased. These moments can be frightening and raise concerns about permanent mental decline. But here, too, biochemistry plays a crucial role. Estrogen affects brain function in various ways, including memory formation and concentration. When estrogen levels drop, the brain has to adapt. Think of it this way: your brain is recalibrating. It is not a defect, but a remodeling process. In the vast majority of cases, these memory problems are temporary. They are a symptom of the transition, not the end of your mental clarity. Instead of scolding yourself for it, try to see it with a certain serenity. Write down important things. Use calendars and allow your brain the time it needs to establish its new circuits. Chapter 5, Myths and Facts. Let us now together enter a space of clarity, a space where we gently pull back the heavy curtains of half-knowledge and outdated beliefs that so often cloud the view of menopause. Like sunbeams dissolving the morning fog, we want to shed light on the myths that surround this phase of life and replace them with the warm, reassuring glow of facts. Imagine you are standing in front of an old, dusty library, each book a myth, a handed-down story passed from generation to generation. We will now gently take some of these books from the shelf, open them, and examine what is really written inside. The first book we open bears a heavy, somber title, The End of Femininity. It is a widespread belief that menopause, the end of the fertile years, is synonymous with the loss of what makes a woman. But let us pause for a moment and question this notion. Is femininity really only tied to the ability to bear children? The truth is infinitely more complex and rich. Femininity is like a deep, wide sea. Fertility is one of its strong currents, yes. But the sea also consists of the silent depth of wisdom, the gentle waves of empathy, the irrepressible power of creativity, and the luminous surface of self-confidence. In many cultures around the world, older women are revered not as faded, but as wise elders. They are the keepers of knowledge, the advisors, the spiritual anchors of their communities. Their femininity has transformed. It has matured from the power of creating new life to the power of nurturing and guiding existing life. It is not an end, but a metamorphosis. We set this book aside and pick up another. Its cover whispers a worrisome message. After menopause, sex life is over. This myth has caused fear and insecurity in countless women. But when we open the pages, we find a very different story. Many women report a new, liberated sexuality. The constant worry about an unwanted pregnancy disappears, which can allow for deeper relaxation and surrender. With the years, self-confidence often grows, as does the knowledge of one's own body and desires. It is true that hormonal changes can lead to physical symptoms like vaginal dryness, but this is not an irreversible verdict. Think of it like a garden that needs a little more care and watering in a dry season. Today, there are a variety of effective and gentle remedies, from lubricants to local hormone therapies, that can correct this imbalance. Intimacy can gain a new, more mature, and perhaps even deeper quality. Now we turn to a particularly loud, dramatic volume. It almost screams from its place on the shelf. All women suffer extremely. The media and society often focus on the worst horror stories about hot flashes, mood swings, and insomnia. This picture, however, is distorted. The reality is a spectrum. Imagine a wide meadow. On a quarter of this meadow, there is hardly a breeze. These are about 25% of women who notice only minimal or no symptoms at all. On another quarter, a fierce storm rages. These are the 25% who actually suffer severely from the symptoms. And in between, on the entire half of the meadow, a moderate breeze blows. These are the 50% of women whose symptoms are noticeable but manageable. Knowing that one's own experience is part of a broad spectrum and that not every storm has to be a hurricane can already be immensely reassuring. Right next to it stands a book with a warning label, Hormones Are Dangerous. This myth is rooted in older studies that are now considered outdated. Research has made enormous progress. Modern body-identical hormone replacement therapies, HRT, are a safe and extremely effective method for a large number of women to alleviate symptoms and significantly improve their quality of life. The sweeping fear of the past has given way to a differentiated view. It is a deeply individual decision that should be made in close consultation with an understanding doctor who weighs the personal health situation and risk factors. For many, it is not a dangerous game with fire, but a gentle support to regain inner balance. Another slim but persistent volume is titled, "You Just Have to Get Through It." This sentence is a relic from a time when women's suffering was often dismissed as inevitable. It suggests one must grit one's teeth and endure it silently. This is simply not true. No one has to suffer in silence. There is a wealth of support options, from medical treatments and lifestyle adjustments, such as diet and exercise, to herbal remedies, acupuncture, and mental techniques like meditation and mindfulness. Seeking help is an act of self-care and strength. The last book we look at feels particularly heavy. It is called Menopause Makes You Old, but this is a misunderstanding of nature itself. Menopause is not a disease and not a sudden decay. It is a natural, biological transition, a programmed part of life, just like puberty. It is the closing of one door and the opening of a new one. Many women describe this phase as a liberation from the cycles of the body, from societal expectations, from worrying about others. It is an invitation to shift the focus back to oneself, to discover new energies, and to shape life with a new, more mature wisdom. By debunking these myths, the fog clears. The path that lies ahead becomes clearer. It is not lined with fear and loss, but with possibilities and conscious choices. Now that we have set aside the old, false maps, we can begin to draw a new, own map for this journey, a map guided by self-care and knowledge. Chapter 6. Natural Support. Let us now walk a path marked by gentleness and self-care, a path that shows you how much power lies in your own hands to make this journey of change more harmonious and peaceful. Imagine holding a wonderful tool in your hands, your own body, and now learning to understand its fine mechanisms and support it with natural means. It is not about fighting a battle, but about entering into a loving dialogue with yourself. We take the first step on this path in the kitchen, the heart of the home, where food nourishes not only the body, but also the soul. Our diet is a powerful ally. Imagine consciously choosing foods that act like little helpers for your hormonal balance. This is where phytoestrogens come in. The word sounds complex, but the idea behind it is very simple. They are plant-based substances that are similar in structure to the body's own estrogens and can dock onto the same receptors to exert a gentle, balancing effect. You can find them in creamy soy products like tofu or edamame, and the small, powerful flax seeds that you can sprinkle over your morning cereal, and in a colorful variety of legumes like chickpeas and lentils. Each meal thus becomes an opportunity to do something good for your body. As bones can lose density, it is important to pay special attention to them. Calcium and vitamin D are the unbeatable duo for strong bones. Imagine strengthening your bone structure with every glass of calcium-rich almond or oat milk, with every spoonful of yogurt or a piece of cheese. Green leafy vegetables like kale or broccoli are also wonderful sources of calcium. Vitamin D, often called the sunshine vitamin, helps the body absorb this valuable calcium. A short walk in the midday sun can already make a difference, and in the darker months, a supplement after medical consultation can be useful. For your heart and against silent inflammation in the body, omega-3 fatty acids are a blessing. They are found in fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, or herring, but also in plant-based sources like walnuts, chia seeds, and those same flax seeds. They are like a gentle balm for your cardiovascular system. And do not forget the simplest yet so important element: water. Sufficient hydration not only helps against the dryness of skin and mucous membranes from the inside out, but also supports all metabolic processes. At the same time, it is worth taking a look at what you might want to reduce. Caffeine and alcohol can trigger or worsen hot flashes in some women. It is an act of mindfulness to observe how your body reacts and to make conscious decisions for your well-being. The second step leads us to movement, not as a strenuous duty, but as a joyful celebration of the body. Gentle cardio training, like a brisk walk in the woods where you inhale the scent of damp earth and leaves, cycling along a river, or swimming in cool water, strengthens your heart and circulation. It's about gently raising your pulse and letting your life energy flow. Strength training is just as important to maintain the muscle mass that tends to decrease with age. Strong muscles are like an internal furnace that keeps your metabolism active. This does not have to be heavy weightlifting. Exercises with your own body weight or light dumbbells are often sufficient. For the connection of body and mind, practices like yoga and Tai Chi are an invaluable gift. Imagine the flowing, slow movements of Tai Chi that ground you and train your balance, or the held stretches in yoga that release tension and calm the mind. They teach us to be present in the moment and to quiet the incessant stream of thoughts. An often neglected but incredibly important area is pelvic floor training. These hidden muscles support our internal organs and are crucial for continence. Regular, gentle exercises can bring enormous improvement here and give you back a sense of security and control. Third, we want to address stress management because chronic stress is like fuel on the fire of menopausal symptoms. The stress hormone cortisol can worsen symptoms like hot flashes and sleep disturbances. Meditation is a scientifically proven way to counteract this. Just a few minutes a day of sitting still and observing your breath can reduce the frequency and intensity of hot flashes. Mindfulness is the art of perceiving your feelings and bodily sensations without being carried away by them. You learn to ride the wave of a hot flash or a sudden emotion instead of being overwhelmed by it. Simple breathing exercises are your anchor. When you feel a wave of heat or panic rising, focus on slow, deep belly breathing. Breathe in for 4 seconds, pause briefly, and breathe out for 6 seconds. This simple rhythm signals to your nervous system that everything is okay. Good sleep is healing, and conscious sleep hygiene can pave the way. Create a cool, dark, and quiet bedroom. Breathable nightwear made of cotton or linen and corresponding bedding can help make night sweats more comfortable. Establish a loving evening ritual, perhaps a cup of herbal tea, a warm bath with lavender oil, or reading a few pages of a good book. Reduce screen time before bed, as the blue light from phones and tablets can interfere with the production of the sleep hormone melatonin. Another important aspect is social support. You are not alone on this journey. Exchanging with other women who are going through similar experiences can be incredibly healing. Hearing that others are experiencing the same uncertainties, fears, but also funny moments, creates a sense of connection and normality. Also involve your partner or close relatives. Explain to them what you are going through. Often, distance arises from ignorance, while understanding and compassion create closeness. Do not isolate yourself, but actively seek contact with people who are good for you. Chapter 7. Medical Options. In our journey through the phases of life, we now come to a point where it is good to pause and look at the map of possibilities. The landscape of menopause is unique for every woman, but the paths that lead through it are better explored today than ever before. Let us, together and in all calmness, take a look at the support that modern medicine can offer. Imagine you are sitting in a bright, friendly room. A sunbeam falls on the wooden table, and you are talking to someone who listens to you and explains the various options, without pressure, without hurry, just as pure information for you. The most well-known and most intensely discussed option is hormone replacement therapy, often abbreviated as HRT. What is behind it? Basically, it is a gentle balancing of what your body is now producing less of. Imagine your inner orchestra playing a wonderful symphony, and over the years, some instruments become quieter. Hormone therapy adds a gentle support to these quieter voices, mainly estrogen and sometimes progesterone, so that the harmony is maintained. This is not done to turn back time, but to make the transition phase smoother and more comfortable. This support can come to you in different ways, just as it best fits into your life. It is available as a small tablet that you take daily, almost like a vitamin, or perhaps you prefer a discreet patch on the skin, which releases its active ingredients slowly and evenly throughout the day. Another form is a gel that you apply to the skin once a day, a small, almost ritualistic gesture of self-care. For very specific local complaints like vaginal dryness, there are also creams or suppositories that work exactly where they are needed, without strongly affecting the rest of the body. The benefits of such a therapy can be profound. For many women, it is as if an inner storm is calming down. The sudden rising heat waves that rob you of sleep and make the day unpredictable can significantly decrease or disappear completely. Sleep becomes deeper and more restful again, which affects energy and mood during the day. The feeling of being driven by an inner restlessness can give way to a new serenity. Of course, with any medical treatment, there is another side of the coin to consider. In the past, there was much talk about the possible risks of hormone therapy, which has unsettled many women. A detailed and personal explanation of the individual benefit-risk ratio always belongs in a trusting conversation with a doctor. They can best assess your personal health profile and answer all questions about possible side effects. At the same time, science does not sleep. Today we know that the blanket warnings of the past are outdated. The modern view is far more nuanced. It has been recognized that the risks strongly depend on age, the timing of the start, and the type of therapy. For most healthy women who start a modern, low-dose therapy early in menopause, the benefits often far outweigh the risks. An individual assessment, together with an understanding doctor, is the key here. But the path of hormones is not the only way. There is also a range of non-hormonal medications that can be of great help. Some antidepressants, certain active ingredients that are actually used for mood regulation, have surprisingly proven to be effective against hot flashes. They seem to influence the very temperature regulation centers in the brain that sometimes go haywire during menopause. At the same time, they can of course also help with mood swings or depressive moods, thus providing more well-being on two fronts. Another drug called gabapentin, originally developed for nerve pain, can also reduce the intensity and frequency of hot flashes, especially the nocturnal ones. In addition to systemic treatments, which affect the whole body, there are also, as already mentioned, very local approaches. Vaginal estrogen in the form of creams or suppositories is one such option. It acts almost exclusively on the mucous membrane of the vagina and pelvic floor, relieving dryness, itching, and pain there, without significant amounts of the hormone entering the bloodstream. This is a very safe and effective option for women who suffer primarily from these local symptoms. Let's broaden our view a bit and also look at alternative therapies. Here we enter a field characterized by gentle touches and ancient knowledge. Acupuncture, for example, in which fine needles are placed at specific points on the body, has shown a moderate but noticeable effect in relieving hot flashes in studies. Many women find the treatment itself deeply relaxing, a moment of pausing and feeling oneself. Other women find help in homeopathy or with herbal remedies. Even if the scientific evidence is often thin here, one should not underestimate the power of the placebo effect. If the belief in a method and the feeling of actively doing something for oneself leads to an improvement, then that is a valuable result. The only important thing here is to talk openly with your treating doctor about it. Sometimes one also hears about bioidentical hormones. That sounds very natural, but it is good to know that these individually mixed preparations are not necessarily better or safer than the standard therapies tested and approved by the authorities. But when is the right time to seek a conversation with a doctor? The answer is simple: whenever you feel that your quality of life is suffering. When the symptoms greatly affect your daily life, when sleep is permanently disturbed, when you feel overwhelmed by anxieties or a deep sadness that you can no longer manage on your own. A doctor's visit is also important in the case of unusual bleeding to clarify the causes. No one has to go through this phase silently and suffering. Seeking professional advice is a sign of strength and self-care. Please remember with all this information that it is a general overview. It is intended to give you an idea of the possibilities, but can and should never replace a personal, trusting conversation with your doctor. Every person is unique, and so the path through this phase of life should also be unique and individually designed. The landscape of medical options is wide and varied. It is not a labyrinth in which one must get lost, but rather a well-stocked garden where one can find, with expert guidance, exactly the plants that are good for you. With this knowledge, we can now move on in the awareness that there are many paths that lead to more serenity and well-being. Chapter 8: The New Phase of Life. Imagine a long, winding path you have walked for years, suddenly clearing and leading to a wide, open plateau. The air up here is clearer, the horizon wider. This is the feeling that many women describe when they cross the threshold into postmenopause. It is not a door that closes, but a gate that opens to a new landscape of life. Let us linger for a moment in this new light and listen to the accounts of those who are already on this path. One of the first and strongest changes women report is a deep, quiet growth in self-confidence. It is as if a quiet but constant background music of worries and self-doubt is slowly fading out. The need to please everyone, the constant concern about the opinions of others, all of that loses its weight. One woman described it with a smile as a, quote, gentle indifference to the judgments that used to occupy her so much. This liberation from the expectations of others is an immeasurable gift. It is the freedom to finally be completely oneself, authentic and unfiltered. The body, which for so many years stood under the sign of potential motherhood, also experiences a new freedom. The fear of an unwanted pregnancy gives way to a new form of sexual self-determination and intimacy. And when the children are grown and go their own ways, a resource that was scarce for a long time returns. Time. Time for oneself, for forgotten hobbies, for new passions, for silence. This perception as a time of renewal is not a purely modern phenomenon. Let's turn our gaze to Japan. There, they have the term kanenki. While it literally describes menopause, it carries the cultural connotation of a renewal of energy, a transition to a new, powerful phase of life. In many indigenous cultures around the world, this time is seen not as a loss, but as a gain in wisdom and status. Older women here are often the keepers of knowledge, the spiritual leaders, the matriarchs whose advice and life experience form the foundation of the community. In the Western world, the image is changing more slowly, but it is changing. The old narrative of decline and invisibility is being quietly but firmly rewritten. This new chapter is being co-authored by the voices of famous and influential women who openly share their experiences. Michelle Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Naomi Watts, they and many others speak about menopause not as an embarrassing secret, but as a natural and often empowering part of life. They use their platforms to destigmatize the topic and show millions of women life not only goes on, it can become richer, deeper, and more fulfilling. They become role models who embody a new vision of aging, a vision of vitality, relevance, and joy. They show that the years after menopause can be a time when a woman is at the peak of her power and influence. Of course, this new phase of life also brings a new responsibility for one's own health. The shield of estrogens weakens, and so prevention comes more into focus. Imagine your body as a precious garden that now needs a different kind of care to continue to thrive. Bone density becomes an important issue. A screening for osteoporosis is an act of foresight that secures mobility for the years to come. The health of the cardiovascular system, which no longer enjoys the same hormonal protection, deserves special attention. Regular checkups become important rituals of self-care. This may sound like a burden at first, but let's change the perspective. It's an investment. When you consider that decades full of possibilities lie ahead, caring for your health becomes a powerful act of self-love. It is the conscious decision to nurture one's own vitality in order to experience these coming years in full strength and with joy. And so all these threads, the new freedom, the cultural revaluation, the inspiring role models, and the conscious care for oneself, converge into a profound realization that many women in their 50s and 60s share. This is their prime time. These are their best years. Why? Because the storms of uncertainty have subsided. A clarity about one's own priorities emerges, which in younger years was often obscured by the demands of everyday life. The stress associated with career building and raising children gives way to a calmer wisdom. It is the wisdom of knowing what really matters and the power to align one's life accordingly. The end of fertility, we realize, is not the end of anything essential. It is not a conclusion, but a beginning. It is the invitation to use the accumulated life experience, the gained freedom, and the new clarity to write the next, perhaps most beautiful, chapter of one's own life. It is like a sunrise after a long night, bathing the landscape in a new golden light and letting you see the beauty of the world with new eyes. In this light, the true bloom of a woman unfolds. Outro, summary, and soothing conclusion. And so we come to the end of our journey today. Let us pause for a moment and let the most important thoughts gently resonate in our consciousness. Menopause, this special time of transition, is not a defect or a flaw in the system, but a completely natural and intended part of a woman's life. Imagine life unfolding in ever new forms, each with its own beauty and purpose. So too is this change. It is of utmost importance to understand that every woman walks this path in her own unique way. Your experience is unique and valid. There is no right or wrong. Knowledge and support are the gentle lights that illuminate this path. There is a wealth of possibilities, from small adjustments in daily life to medical guidance. Find out in peace what works for you and your body. And perhaps most importantly of all, talk about it. With friends, in the family, with professionals. Every open dialogue is a small, brave step to break the taboo that still surrounds this topic. You are not alone. At this very moment, millions of women around the world are walking this or a similar path. Your body, which has carried you your whole life, which has worked wonders and weathered storms, now deserves your deepest understanding and your gentle compassion. Do not view this phase as an end, but as a possible transformation that can lead you to one of the most powerful times of your life. Be patient and gentle with yourself. Give yourself permission to seek support when you need it. Share your growing knowledge when you feel like it, and be a beacon for other women. Now let these informations and thoughts rest within you. They no longer need to be sorted or analyzed. Allow them to simply settle as you gently drift into sleep. Your body instinctively knows what to do. Trust it, just as you trust the cycle of day and night. Good night, and may you find deep, restful peace in this knowledge.